Well, good evening. Welcome, everyone. My name is Claudia Arniela. I'm with CD&P. Since 2017, Austin Energy has been working with the community, informing them about this effort to build a third downtown substation, the Rainey Street Substation. So this is really a continuation of ongoing public involvement efforts. We're really glad to be with you all tonight to share this update. A lot has happened since our last community meeting. This is actually the fourth in a series of community meetings that we've held. The last one was over 2 years ago now, where we revealed kind of the initial design that the community selected and also the name of the substation, the Rainey Street Substation. So tonight, we're actually excited to share the final design that has recently been approved for construction and also introduce you to the construction contractor team from J. Reese Contractors. So for tonight, just a quick run of show. We will be recording this presentation. So for those who are not able to join or who joined late, you will be able to view the full recording and also access the presentation materials. We're going to start with a brief background on the project, describe why this substation is so important for the downtown electrical grid. And then also we have a short video that kind of gives a good summary about what is a substation, and also share some details about the design. And then we're delighted to share some images of the final design and introduce you to the contractor team from J. Reese. We really want to give you solid information about what to expect once construction begins, so you have a good sense of the timeline. For those of you who live in the Rainey neighborhood or who work in the Rainey neighborhood, you will be seeing construction begin in the coming months. So we want you to know that Austin Energy is really committed to sharing information and being proactive in sharing any potential impacts that construction might have. And then we will move into a discussion portion. You can send any questions you might have during the presentation via chat, and we'll be monitoring that. We'll try to get to all the questions during this meeting. We'll also be posting responses on the project website. You can also raise your hand and you can request to unmute your line to ask a question during that time. We have several project team members on the line today. With Austin Energy, we have our project manager, Tara De La Garza.
Everyone, as Claudia said, I'm Tara De La Garza. We've also got Kim Doyle and Yasmin, as well as Scott Bear and Chad Lingdane.
I'm not sure if anyone from the city joined, but many representatives from the city are part of this project as well. With Stanley Consultants, the project manager is Sunny Kraus. I think you're on mute, Sunny. I think you're on mute.
I'm sorry, I'm Sonny Krause with Stanley Consultants. I'm the project manager for Stanley Consultants. Of course, we have several sub-consultants that are represented as well, and we can let them introduce themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunny. Tonight, you'll also hear from Donna Carter with Carter Design Associates, who is the lead designer and architect on the project.
Good evening. I'm Donna Carter with Carter Design Associates, and my team worked on the design of the fence enclosure and the building for the substation itself. We're really happy to be here tonight.
We have Roberto Garcia with Garcia Design. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Good evening. I'm Roberto Garcia. I'm the project landscape architect. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm with CD&P. We're supporting the public involvement efforts. And then we also have with the Civil Land Group, our civil engineering lead, Greg Olsek.
Good evening. I'm Greg Olchok with Civil Land Group. We were the civil design on the project, basically the flat work.
And we're very pleased to introduce J. Reese Contractors. We have several folks from J. Reese on the line tonight, and tonight you'll hear from Keith Carter.
I'm Keith Carter. I'll be the project superintendent for the substation. I believe we also have on the line Derek Eckhoff. He's our field operations manager, and then Scott Ashford, who will be the project manager for the substation.
Thank you all for joining. I want to recognize also folks who helped spread the word about this effort. We've had a lot of involvement from the Rainey Street neighbors, the Downtown Neighbors Association, residents of the Towers condominium, and many others in the area. Again, after this recording is done, we encourage you to spread the word so that folks can hear the information presented here. And with that, let's get to it. I want to pass it off to Tara.
Thank you, Claudia, and thanks everyone for joining us. We have been meeting with everyone for multiple years now, but just wanted to step back and talk about the overview of the projects, and then we'll get down to the exciting part, which is meeting Jay Reese. So with this title of the slide, Repowering Downtown, it talks about, we currently have 78 substations within the Austin Energy fleet of substations, and we currently have 2, which are the Brackenridge and Seaholm, and the Rainey Street Substation will be adding our 3rd. As you can see here, as part of this Repowering Downtown, we're working on multiple activities in order to bring the best reliability and resiliency to the downtown network. And the first 3 bullets, we have successfully completed those items, and as you can see here, we're moving to the Rainey Street Substation. And once the Rainey Street Substation is energized and able to fully serve the downtown area, we will then be able to move on to the next 2 items, which importantly is to rebuild our Brackenridge Substation located on the frontage road there of I-35. So with that, we can move on to the next slide. And so again, just taking a high level look, and is that, we purchased this site, the city of Austin, Austin Energy purchased this site back in 1999, knowing that we needed to provide future capacity for our downtown network. And once we identified it was the right timing for this project, we started coordinating with a lot of agencies to really make sure we're being good community partners and understanding the infrastructure that's around us and within the site. So we've been coordinating with TxDOT. I think many are familiar with the Capital Express programs that are going on to upgrade I-35. So we've been coordinating with TxDOT as they are one boundary of the site, as well as watershed protection. There's an existing storm sewer line that runs through, a storm drainage line that runs through the site. So you can see at 1.46 acres, it's a very tight site, and then coupled with existing heritage trees that we are definitely going to be maintaining. The actual usable substation footprint is under an acre, right at 0.8 acres. So, this type of substation build is good for an urban compact site. And so the 2 things that wanted to point out is that there are 2 existing transmission poles. We will be adding a 3rd one, and that will allow us to bring the high voltage into the substation with the existing pole, and then we'll bring it back out once it's been dropped down in order to maintain drop downs for the distribution feeding the network, and then to continue the transmission over to our Seaholm substation, we will come back up and add a 3rd pole just so we can span the existing heritage trees there and maintain the viability of those heritage trees. We also will be having 2 entrances. One entrance will be more of a less used on maybe for bringing in equipment. That will be the entrance there on I-35 on the frontage road there, but the main entrance to the substation will be off of Lampy Street. Okay, next slide. Okay, and before we jump into explaining the process and the next steps, we put together a brief overview video to get you all oriented.
Did you know that the original electrical grid in downtown Austin was built in the 1930s? To modernize the electrical grid and ensure an energy transmission system that is reliable, resilient, and ready for future growth, Austin Energy is performing a series of capital improvement projects to build new and improve existing energy facilities and infrastructure. Austin Energy's Repowering Downtown initiative involves a variety of upgrades to meet the needs of our city. As part of the Repowering Downtown initiative, Austin Energy is adding a third substation serving downtown in the Rainey Street district, as well as a complete rebuild of the existing Brackenridge substation.
Really, the point of starting this substation was Austin has always been a fast-growing city, but in the last decade, it's really just grown exponentially, and we realized that this is the right time to put a third substation to serve the downtown network.
The Rainey Street Substation will provide increased electrical capacity to meet downtown growth and will allow Austin Energy to continue to provide reliable power downtown.
We acquired the land for the new substation back in 1999 for the purpose of someday adding an additional substation to serve the fast-growing downtown network. We started working with the community in 2017. Then in July of 2021, the Austin City Council approved our construction contract, which allows us to start building. We're so excited to be starting construction on the Rainey Street Substation. Because the Rainey Street Substation is in a very visible area of downtown, we went through a very thorough community engagement process. We had 3 rounds where we talked to the community about their concerns during the first round. We came back and presented some design ideas for them in the second round. And then in the third round, we really showed them what design it was they chose. And we heard from over 600 different people about what it is they were looking for in the Rainey Street Substation.
Hello, I'm Donna Carter, and I'm the project architect for the Rainey Street Substation. The site really is seen as a transition between the Mexican-American center behind, as well as the very active Rainey area, but also the Waterloo Greenway. And within that, we have then chosen to have landscaping that really highlights the 4 heritage trees that are left intact on the site, but we've introduced drought-tolerant landscaping. And then on the street, we have benches, shaded, wider sidewalks, and we have an electric vehicle charging station. The Rainey Street Substation is actually a gas-insulated facility, and that means that it is a smaller footprint and that the equipment for the switchgear itself can actually be enclosed. This is perfect for small, compact urban sites. The backbone of it really was the community input that we got that really allowed us to focus on what we feel is the infrastructure becoming a visual part of the downtown experience.
Electricity is generated from power generation plants and renewable energy, such as wind and solar. It is then transmitted at high voltages across transmission lines. Substations receive the high voltage energy, and transformers reduce the energy down to a voltage level that can be safely delivered to customers. Energy is delivered to homes and businesses through a network of above-ground and underground distribution circuits. The 706.5 Lambie Street site near Rainey Street was chosen strategically because it meets electrical requirements and allows access to existing electrical transmission and distribution circuits. So far, the relocation of the water and wastewater lines is completed, and now the construction of the substation is set to begin next and will be providing electricity by 2023. As construction moves forward, Austin Energy will provide updates about any expected impacts to neighbors, traffic, the construction timeline, and any other information.
We look forward to celebrating the completion of the Rainey Street Substation in 2023. Before then, we'll share information with nearby neighbors throughout the entire process. Please visit our website to sign up for updates.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I'm Kim Doyle. I do community engagement at Austin Energy, and I hope you like our video. Gave me a little chance to actually look at the participant list, and I saw some names from the towers. I think I saw a few from Windsor, and I even saw a few folks with the media that I know are here. So I want to welcome you all here. As I do that, I kind of want to talk a little bit about Austin Energy is very committed to working with the community, especially in areas where we're doing infrastructure projects. So we actually started working with the community back in 2017. Before we even kind of got into the Rainey neighborhood in 2018, we talked to the BOMA, the building owners and managers. We talked to the real estate group. We talked to the Downtown Austin Alliance. We were just kind of getting feedback from folks about, kind of what to expect. And we knew that we needed energy downtown. So in 2018, we had our first public meeting. I think that's where I got to meet a good majority of the towers folks, some of who are on this call tonight. And we just kind of wanted to find out in 2018, like what your concerns were and to get your feedback so that we could use that before we even thought about designing the substation or what the substation was going to look like, because we've always been really aware that this particular location is very visible. It's right next to I-35. It's in the middle of the Rainey Street district, and it's just in a really important area of town. So we always knew that we wanted to get your feedback. So we heard what you said, and then we came back in 2019 in February to sort of show you guys some ideas, give you some thoughts about what we thought we might do with this surround, because we really listened when you said, we don't want this to be a chain link fence like other substations we've seen. We want this to be attractive. Again, it's in that really visible area of town. And so we talked to you guys then, and over the course of those couple of meetings, we had about 600 different survey respondents and lots of meetings. And we basically came back in September of 2019, and you guys told us that there were, you wanted a modern looking surround that was colorful and had a lot of artistic features in it. You told us that you wanted us to preserve those heritage trees that were on the site and that you wanted some natural looking landscaping. We also talked to Waterloo Greenway at that point, who, they're doing some different projects on the west side of where we are. And we kind of tried to coordinate with them a little bit to try to make the neighborhood feel kind of cohesive. So we kind of borrowed some design concepts for them. And then we really just wanted to make sure that we provided a substation that fit in with the neighborhood's character. So we're going to have a couple of rain gardens. You'll hear more about those. We're going to have some natural landscaping, some street lamp post lighting, and other things that kind of make this feel like it's a part of the neighborhood and allow folks to kind of access around it to get to parts of the Rainey neighborhood. Next slide, please. And so, like Claudia mentioned earlier, it's been a couple of years since we've had one of these big public meetings with you guys, and partly we'll say there's a lot of coordination that needs to happen on these big infrastructure projects, but partly also because, a global pandemic slowed things down a little bit for everyone. But we did manage to do a few things. Right before the pandemic started, we started a water and wastewater relocation. We basically just needed to get some of that infrastructure out from underneath the site, get it out into the public right of way so that we could put an energy substation there. We actually completed that in spring of 2020, so last spring. And then we actually needed to rezone this property from SF3 or family. You might remember that whole neighborhood was originally kind of a family area. So we rezoned that back in June of last year to make that a P for public. And then we finalized the design actually in spring of this year to where we have the final design. We'll show you some more pictures of that here in a few minutes. And then in July, City Council approved our contract bid to hire Jay Reese, who you're going to hear from here in a few minutes. Next slide. And I'm going to turn it back over to Tara, who's going to talk about some of the features.
Thank you, Kim. So as alluded to in some of the video and other discussions from team members tonight, you guys live in the area, it's not always the most accessible or very walkable around this portion of the Rainey neighborhood. And so we think that, we've spent some time trying to make sure that this is, it's a substation that also has some pedestrian friendly trees and tree lined with accessible just for those who, as it's kind of this, Don alluded to, a transition space. So some of the highlights that we'll be providing include 12-foot sidewalks with planted trees. There will be some native landscaping on river and along the frontage road side. We will have bike racks and benches. There'll be lamp post lighting added along East Avenue. And those are the areas that are most frequented by pedestrians. And so we think that'll work well there and be an advantage. We also, I think we hear a lot about the traffic in the area, and currently with that back end parking, we're going to be changing it to parallel parking. And another added bonus is we'll be adding some electric vehicle parking both on East Avenue and on Lambie Street. And again, we're preserving the heritage trees that we have both on River and on the south corner there with the frontage road and Lambie Street. So, you know, there'll be some walking paths and plenty of lighting, as well as we'll be having a rain garden feature there as well. Next slide. Turn it over to Donna Carter.
Thank you, Tara. As you heard, we've been very excited and very lucky with my team, Zach Robinson and Gerard Kinney, Abby Lawson, to work on the actual enclosure and building. And what we heard when we went to the building, the meetings before, is that we wanted something modern, something colorful. And so we were looking for materials, we were looking how we could introduce that color. And we found a wonderful polycarbonate material that we're using, and we call them the fins. The GIS building itself is 28 feet tall, but the enclosure, the actual fence, gets to be just about 12 feet of that. And the enclosure is very important because first and foremost, it's for security. And we have to have it all the way around. We have to have it so no one can get through, no animals can get through. It's not very safe. It's not good for those sorts of activities to happen unimpeded on the other side. So trying to make that something that is visually appealing, kind of changeable so that you get a different experience as you walk around was really the charge that we took on pretty seriously. The fence also has to be non-climbable, both for animals and for people. But we want it to be able to be maintained so that it's actually demountable. We have 40 feet that have to be maintained for a public right utility easement. And so we want to make sure that if something has to be changed or fixed or constructed in that easement, that we can actually take the fence down and put it back up without too much expense. Very large gates do have to be operable. People and vehicles have to be able to get into those two driveways. So all of that has been incorporated, not only within the enclosure itself, but within the look of the building. We heard a lot about, oh, can we just cover it? Can we put everything into a building? And we really can't do that because of the way all of this equipment works. So it does need to remain uncovered so that you can have air around it. The switchgear itself, though, is enclosed. The slide that you're seeing is showing the blue polycarbonate fins, and those will be of varying depths across the fence. So as you're walking along, it will actually sort of look like undulating curves as you go around the building. And we're pretty excited about that. Next slide. This is a sort of early morning look at the, or I guess I should say a late evening look at the west side of the facility. So it's bringing out a little bit more of the orangey color, but it's sort of a dark brown orangey color, but you can start to see how those fins go around. So we feel it's kind of a nice transition from the center and the art that's going on to as you go north through the Rainey District into the Waterloo Greenway area. Next slide. And this is on the other River Street and I-35, and this is the area that really connects to the Rainey Street area. It has more of the pedestrian areas with the landscaping, and really is part of that Rainey Street feeling, as well as the heritage trees. And you can see the boulder seating and the other aspects of that. And I believe that's turned back to Tara.
Thanks, Donna. And one other slide here with some of our renderings. We've got the cross section of East Avenue, and it's slightly older depiction, but what's important about this and that it's showing the width of the street and how they're with the parallel parking and how it'll probably be, it should be a more drivable street as well. And then if you look in the top right corner, just to kind of show that's the current view of our rendering of what we anticipate the real life look to be. And so again, just adding parallel parking is, one of the advantages, and that along with some electric vehicle parking will be added in this area. Okay, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Keith Carter and introduce our wonderful contractor that we're so excited to work with, and they're going to be able to kind of tell you guys a little bit about themselves.
So yeah, I'm Keith Carter. I'll be the project superintendent for the Rainey Street Substation. A little bit of background on J. Reese. We were founded in 1990 here in Austin. So we've been in the Austin area for a little over 30 years. Been fortunate enough to complete several very notable projects here in the Austin area, as well as, a whole bunch of projects throughout the United States. We pride ourselves on our quality of work, being able to complete these projects, of course, safely, on time, and under budget. And so these ones that, we get to do on our home turf, they obviously are very exciting to us, being able to provide to the community and Austin and its exponential growth that it's seen and continues to grow so fast. So this station should be very exciting. It should be a great project. We can go on to the next one. Look at some of these notable projects we've done. The Austin Boardwalk, again, shown there in the top left. That was with the city of Austin for the hike and bike trail. To the right of that, you got the Pfluger Bridge also there on the hike and bike trail. Below that, you've got the 2nd Street Butterfly Bridge right over there by the Austin Public Library. And then to the left of that, our most recent project in the downtown Austin area was the Cap Metro Downtown Station. That one was an exciting project. I was heavily involved with that one. Being right smack dab in the middle of the convention center and the Hilton Hotel, along with a slew of other, business stakeholders, Moonshine Grill, Austin Visitor Center, the list goes on. Throughout that 2-year project, our entire schedule was heavily coordinated with those stakeholders and the community. Everything we did was within the considerations of the events that they had going on, everything that, they may have needed. And we were still able to complete that project on time under budget. So that was a really fun one. And it's exciting to see Austin, growing and adding these, large features to, hopefully, continue this growth. Going on to the next one. There's more pictures there of the boardwalk. To the right of that's the Pfluger Bridge while it was under construction. That was opened up in 2001. So that's looking south right there at Lamar. So obviously that area has changed a lot. There to the left is a big progress photo of the boardwalk trail. That entire site, that shoreline was very sensitive area. So on that project, we were able to come up with a plan. We built a dock all the way down by the Oracle campus, where it is now, where we received all our materials and everything. That way we mitigated any serious impacts on that shoreline, the residents, businesses along there. So all these projects, we really take into consideration the community's needs, impacts that our construction may have. So, being an Austin contractor, we take into consideration everything that, the community has concerned with, this Rainey Street substation down there in the middle of right next to Rainey Street. Obviously, there's a lot of activity down there. So I'm looking forward to be able to work with the community on that one and figure out, what we can do to be able to get the job done, as well as, mitigating any, impacts on those residents and businesses. The next one, that's the 2nd Street Butterfly Bridge. There at the bottom right, you can see the Austin Public Library was under construction. So we're accustomed to working in these tight areas with, other construction ongoing. Our schedule was tightly coordinated with that other contractor who was constructing the Austin Public Library at the time. So all of our deliveries, major operations was coordinated with those contractors. That way we were able to do it as efficiently as possible. Going on to the next one. This was up at the top. That's the Central Austin Substation. That's up on 45th and Lamar. That was completed back in 2005. So we're excited to be able to do another substation project. They really are exciting from a contractor standpoint. They've got a little bit of everything, utilities, concrete, especially this one with the architectural finishes. It should really be an exciting project, and it should, be a great quality product, and, as well as just serving the ever growing downtown Austin area. It'll be a lot of fun to do. So I'm looking forward to it. And now I'll hand it off to Kim.
Thank you, Keith. I appreciate it. And for those of you that are in the meeting tonight, let me just start by saying it's really wonderful to work with the group of contractors who really do care about input and the impact that they have on the community. So I really appreciate that. To that point, for Austin Energy, we've kind of been out talking to some of the building managers and some of the businesses that are, in the immediate area of the substation, we didn't just want to know kind of what your input was for the design phase. We wanted to know what your concerns were for the construction piece as well. So I want to talk through a little bit of that here and just let you all know, kind of reaffirm that Jay Reese is listening and they're working with us very closely and with all the feedback that we've gotten from you. One of the first things we know is that they're putting a construction fencing around the entire site, and that will be for safety for pedestrians and those who might need to walk near the site. The other thing too is that there may be some potential lane closures or outages or other nighttime construction activities. We don't know of these right now, but if they happen, we want to assure you all that we're going to give you plenty of advance notice. We're looking to try to give you 72 hours of advance notice if we can. We've talked to the building managers to try to set up a system where we'll make sure to send them emails, flyers that they can put up in your mail banks. We're talking with Jay Reese about also putting up some signage right there on River Street, because we realize that River is the main entrance for the residents that live in this area. So that would be a visible spot to let you guys know, along with the email and the flyers, potential signage for some of these bigger milestones. We also heard from some of you folks that live over closer to Rainey Street itself, that there might be some issues with accessing the alleyway on Cummings Street. I think maybe some move in, move out could be prohibited there, maybe some issues with picking up your trash. We want you to know we're working on that. We'll be sure to get flaggers and anything we need in there to make sure you guys have what you need. We'll also make sure that we have staffing for any traffic management. I know that you folks that live at the towers are particularly concerned that we always keep one lane open, and that lane being northbound, if possible, on East Avenue there. We hear you about that. We've actually been working with the folks over at 44 East and 48 East since probably 2018 when we started the wastewater project, and we're still coordinating with them. So we have really close contact with what they're doing. And yeah, other than that, we just want you to know we're listening. We want your feedback, and we want to make sure that you get informed of anything you need to know about within 72 hours or so. With that, I'll hand it back over to Keith and let you take it from there.
So the phases, lined it out a little bit here. Phase one would be moving in. We would have the site construction fencing around the perimeter of the site. That way we don't have any concerns with pedestrians or anything, getting into the site and having safety issues with that. Our traffic control plan, which we'll touch on here in a minute, is primarily having access from the I-35 frontage road, which would mitigate any deliveries and congestion on Lambie Street and East Avenue, which are already tight with the ongoing construction over there. And then after that, once we got all our initial setup done, we would end up, with our site prep. There's existing asphalt pads on the site, which we would, end up demoing, and then begin going into phase 2 with the foundation work, concrete piers, transformer pads, etc. But again, all these deliveries, materials, etc., is going to be coming in off of I-35. That way there won't be any added congestion to what's already going on the East Avenue and Lambie Street with the other high rises going on right there in our, immediate proximity. And then the future phases later on down the line, looking into springtime of next year, we would begin the building construction, the walls, the perimeter walls, which were touched on by the Carter Design earlier, the landscaping and rain gardens, which should be some pretty great features once it's all said and done. And then, just the building finish out, sidewalks, etc. It should be really a great product once it's all said and done. And of course, all this would be communicated throughout with the community's sidewalk closures, making sure that pedestrians still have access north, south, east, and west. We want to work with the needs of the community to make sure that this gets done as smoothly as possible. The next slide is the traffic control plan, which I talked about. You can see there on the southbound frontage road, those lanes are very wide on the frontage road. So we were able to work with TxDOT to get our plan approved to be able to set up basically a drive-through, enter and exit construction entrance right there for all of our deliveries. That way East Avenue is basically untouched as far as construction traffic. So most of our deliveries will be coming in through there. We will have various, intermittent sidewalk closures when we do go through and do the utilities and site amenities on those sidewalks. And then, of course, replacing the sidewalks. Those will, of course, be coordinated to make sure that, pedestrian access is still available. And those will also be, provided with updates on timelines and et cetera. That would be looking towards, springtime, early summer of next year. Safety is always the number one priority of any contractor. We pride ourselves on our safety resume and being able to complete these heavy projects safely. And so on this site, we'll have fencing around the entire perimeter, thus, mitigating the risks of pedestrians entering in. We have open trenches for the utilities of the substation, et cetera. That site will be in place pretty much the duration of the project until we can start getting the fence up, the permanent fence around the substation. We'll always have flaggers, at the entrances, exits where, construction traffic, deliveries are entering and exiting. Our traffic control plans, we have monthly meetings with the contractors in the areas to make sure that we're not closing down a road in conjunction with somebody else closing down a road. Our site specifically, this project should not have any road closures, so there shouldn't be any concerns there. Really, the only thing would be changing the parking stalls from a pull-in to a parallel, which that would be coordinated and communicated. Anticipated work hours are just the same as you're used to, 7 to 7, getting there at 6 to get things rolling. But being that we're going into the fall and winter months, we shouldn't have any early concrete pours like you do see in the middle of the summer. So it really should be a pretty smooth ride as far as noise, et cetera. And with that, I believe I'm going to hand it back to Kim.
Thank you, Keith. Before we kind of open things up for questions, because we do want you guys to be able to ask all the questions that you wanted to ask, we just wanted to kind of let you know what the next steps are. I think the video kind of covered some of this, but basically we are at this place here at fall of 2021 where we're getting ready to start construction. There were some delays, as we've met with a lot of you guys over the previous years, and this wasn't the original project schedule, but it does still fit into the overall project schedule that will allow us to get this substation built and online so that we can take the Brackenridge substation offline and completely rebuild it. By the way, that's going to be a gas insulated switchgear substation as well, just for your knowledge. And like we said, we're really hoping to complete this in early 2023. I think anyone who kind of signed in tonight, will make sure that we capture your name and that you're a part of that ongoing list of kind of newsletters and updates that we send out. But do, go to our website, sign up if you want to, keep coming back there. We'll put fresh information out and we'll make sure that we communicate with you all through the process. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Claudia to get us started on our question and answers.
Thank you, Kim. If you do have any questions, you can drop them in the chat box. You can also use the raise hand feature. If you look on your bottom black bar on the Zoom features, you see 3 black dots, or you see the, you should see the reactions option, and you can raise your hand there, and then we can unmute you. I'm going to put a plug while we're waiting to see if any questions come in. We are going to send a post-meeting survey. We want to hear how we did in sharing this information. So if you would do us a favor and fill that out. I think it's just 5 short questions, but we definitely want to hear that feedback. And then if you didn't join at the beginning, we are recording this meeting and we are going to be posting this information on the project website, which you see it here. We will be monitoring a phone line throughout the construction process. It's in English and Spanish. So if anyone has questions regarding traffic or the construction timeline, you can call that phone line or you can send an email here at communications@austinenergy.com. I'm not seeing any raised hands yet. Okay, well, hopefully, yes. Olivia, let me see, you can unmute there.
I'll start, I'll break the ice. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I work at the Mexican American Cultural Center, and I know we're our close neighbors as the substation. So I just wanted to get some information about how like the circulation in the area might be impacted and what the timeline might be, and also where the construction folks are going to park, like the workers that might be working on the site, if they have like a designated parking area.
I can take the first stab at that, and then I might turn it over to Keith about the parking issue. Hi, Olivia. We are actually going to be presenting to the MAC board at the beginning of November. And so maybe offline, you can provide me a few more questions of things you think the board might like to know specifically. The one thing I will say is that we know that River is the main entrance to the neighborhood, so we're not going to impact that. This project shouldn't impact traffic there at all. The other thing I will say is that we talked to the MAC back in 2018, 2019, and we do know that this is kind of a pedestrian flow area around there, that we wanted to make it, something where you could easily get from the other side of 35 to this side over to the MAC, that we would be adding kind of a nice windy tree sidewalk area through there that people could actually walk through to access your facility. I hope that answers part of your question. And then Keith, I think she had a question about parking, contractor parking.
Yeah, so the way we've drafted up our schedule and phased the work on site should allow us to park almost all company vehicles, subcontractors, et cetera, on site. If there was any overflow, then they would just have to use the public parking on the streets. But we phased this job to hopefully eliminate that as much as possible, just because it's already so busy in that area that ideally that almost everybody would be able to just park on site.
Thank you very much. Yes, I can send more questions in an email.
Yeah, I would appreciate.
Thanks, Olivia.
It would help us sort of guide things for the board when we meet with them at the beginning of next month. Thank you, Olivia.
Thank you.
Wait just another moment if anyone has any additional questions.
Thank you, Anne Marie. I know we communicated a little bit about.
Reading through that now.
Hang on, wait till you see the next rendering. Thank you for that comment. So there was a question of how committed we are, Claudia, to the blue and red fencing. If Donna
That, yeah.
on the call.
So I think.
All right.
There she is, yeah.
So for the blue polycarbonate, we are, that's right now the color that we've chosen and the color that everyone seems to like. In terms of the metal panels themselves, we've asked Jay Reese, and they're bringing us some more samples for the color. And really, if you could think about weathering steel, but probably a little bit browner than that, is the color that we're looking at right now. So that the last rendering, we've done the rendering over a period of several years, and we've done different lighting effects on each of those renderings. And so the last one was kind of that late full afternoon sun on a panel and what that might do to it. So it will not be that orange, that's for sure. We've all kind of decided that. And we'll be looking at it along with Austin Energy as well.
I'm not seeing any more questions so far. You can submit any questions that you think of after this meeting here with this contact information. Everyone who's on this list will be sending you that follow-up email with the post-meeting survey, and then we'll also be sending to our email listserv, which you can sign up for on the website, regular updates. So anytime, like as Kim mentioned, there's any kind of traffic impacts or major construction impacts, we would be sending that information your way. I see that we just dropped the survey link. If you wouldn't mind taking a few moments to complete that survey, we'd certainly appreciate it. I want to thank all of our project team who's on the line. It's wonderful working with all of you. And for everyone who joined, we hope that you got a lot of good information. We look forward to sharing more updates as the construction process commences. And with that, I think we will close the meeting. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you all. Austin Energy, we're here. We're here if you have any questions or concerns.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.